Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me, as always, is my good pal Tony. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, dude?
How you been, man?
I've been, man. I'm ready. I'm excited about this episode, man. I've been
Same here. Yeah,
ready for.
same here.
Yeah.
All right. So this episode is a review, an in-depth review on 1975's Deep Red from Dario Argento. So last week we recorded an episode showcasing Dario Argento, and then we just decided we wanted to do Deep Red episode, correct?
Yes.
So yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm definitely excited about this one. Um, but yeah, with that, um, before we get started into this and everything, have you recently picked up anything? Have you watched anything?
Yeah, man. As far as watches, I haven't really been watching much, which is a shame because it's October and I should be watching a lot of horror movies. But it's been so busy lately. I haven't had a chance to sit down and actually pop in a couple flicks. But I did finally get the absolutely fucking stunning Friday the 13th box set from Scream Factory.
Oh,
It came in last week, and oh man, I was so excited. As soon as it arrived on the doorstep, I just tore it open and just started digging into it, and it's just so fucking nice, dude. It really reminds me a lot of the Halloween set that they did.
mm-hmm.
Um, Aesthetically, it's gorgeous. Like the artwork is fantastic. Um, all the discs have like great artwork on them. They all come in the clear cases, which is interesting. I thought they would be, I thought they'd come in like the black ones like the Halloween set did, but
Yeah.
um, it's aesthetically a gorgeous set. I haven't opened them up and popped in the blues and checked them out yet just to see the specs and everything. But as far as like presentation goes, I mean, this is fantastic, and I couldn't be happier. I know I started to pre-order in I think July,
Mm-hmm.
and by October it was here. So I mean, it was really quick. I didn't have to wait that long. So because the wait was, I mean, you know me, man. I'm such a massive Friday fanboy that
Mm-hmm.
this just couldn't get here sooner. So I'm glad that the wait wasn't that long. So psyched it came in, and yeah, I can't wait to dig into them and start watching them. Um,
Nice.
Other than that, I did get one in today that I ordered from eBay um, last week sometime. It's a it's a late '80s Italian schlock film called Night Killer, directed by Claudio Fragasso, the same director that gave us Troll 2. So
Hmm.
you know what kind of cheese that you're getting into with this flick. Yeah, I just got this in today, and I can't wait to watch it. I might pop this in tomorrow and give it a watch. I've been pretty excited about watching this. I don't know, man. I've been on a kick lately. You know me, man. I get on my kicks, and I want to watch some like schlocky Italian horror. So anything I can find that's schlocky Italian horror that I don't have, I'm looking to pick up. But yeah, I might pop this and watch it
Right
because it
on.
looks, yeah, it looks really cool. The guy, the killer, looks like he's like a Freddy clone. Like he doesn't have the claw like the glove. He just has a claw with long nails that look like the glove. So it's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
And he's got it burnt up. I don't know if this is a mask or it's got to be a mask. There's no way that's his face that he got like burnt up or something. But yeah, it looks super interesting, man. So I'm gonna give this a watch as possibly as soon as tomorrow. Um, but
Nice.
yeah, that's all I picked up, bro. What about you?
Well,
Picked up?
well, I want to go over real quick. I want to go over the things that I've watched. It's really just one movie. But the other night I couldn't sleep, so I came out here, turned on Netflix, and decided I was just going to kind of look around. And upon me looking around on Netflix, I actually found a movie that I'd never seen before, but always kind of wanted to see, and that was Dark Skies. And
Mm.
initially, I was just like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't feel like staying up that late, so I was just gonna see if there was like a trailer on there, and lo and behold, there wasn't a trailer on there. So I was like, well, I'll watch the first 5 minutes of it, see if it gets me captured. The next thing you know, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm halfway through the movie, so It was really good. I genuinely I don't get creeped out by films, um, or anything like that usually, but
Yeah,
man, I had such an eerie feeling after watching that movie. It was just kind of unsettling. Um, I mean, to the point where I like went to go, get ready for bed, and I'm gonna sound like a little kid, but I went to the back door because I left the lights on the back door. We have a giant sliding glass door, and yeah, I caught myself kind of looking around the backyard real quick before I cut the lights off. So, but
yeah.
yeah, it's
When a film has that effect on you and you're a horror fan, can you kind of desensitize to it all? I mean, that's pretty powerful, man. That speaks volumes to the movie.
yeah. It
It
was, I mean, like I said, the creep factor was just really there. Like I said, it was just really eerie. And I mean, and the effects weren't that great in the film, stuff like that. But man, just for some reason, the way the film was just made it was kind of eerie.
Yeah,
Um, and even to that point, the following day, Daniel had stopped by the house, and I had mentioned it to Daniel, and he was like, "Dude, yeah, that one creeped him out too." He said that he couldn't sleep that night, actually, when he watched it.
yeah, dude. I
So
need to check. I need to check that out. I don't think I've ever watched it.
it was pretty good. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, it was pretty fun to watch. It kind of reminded me almost like uh what's that movie, The Fourth Kind or whatever, A Fourth Kind.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's
yeah,
The Fourth Kind, but that similar feeling when I watched that one. But this one just kind of got to me a little bit more for some reason. I don't know if it was like the fact that these aliens were abducting like children in the film and stuff like that. So, I've got, I'm a big family man, so maybe that's what was doing it for me. But it was just creepy altogether. So, but check it out if you haven't. Yeah, it's a good one.
oh yeah, dude. I definitely gotta check that one out.
And I didn't get I haven't gotten much of anything this week. Honestly, Daniel stopped by because he was at the flea market this past weekend, and he got a film, and yeah, he got it for near to nothing, but he read the back of it and he loved it, so he was like, "This is right up Corey's alley," so he bought it for me. But it's a movie called It Came from Somewhere Else. And this looks like, I mean, the cover art looks like something from like a 1950s black and white Martian movie. But it's about these, I don't know, it's about kung fu experts from outer space. It's the tagline of the movie says too intense for children and small dogs.
Oh, that's great.
So so yeah, I can't wait to watch this one actually.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast, man. Yeah, it sounds like from what you make it sound like, it sounds like a spoof kind of
Hmm.
film from 50 sci-fi. So, oh yeah, man, those movies are great.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, the cover art's got like these UFOs dangling from monofilament lines, and yeah, there's just blood everywhere. So it looks cheesy as hell.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta let me know about that one, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, the synopsis, I'll read a little bit into the synopsis, but it says Kung Fu experts from outer space select the tiny community of Grand Bosch near the Canadian border. And then it goes A. It says, as the site for their bizarre agriculture experiments, the result is human hands growing in the fields and the spontaneous combustion of the townspeople.
Dude,
Yeah.
how have I never heard of this? This is insane.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel
it
like I
sounds
should
like
have
it's too intense.
heard of it, you know? Like, what the fuck? Where have I been? This I need to write this down. I don't even care if it's good or not. I just want to watch. I mean, I just want to see this. I have to experience. It's one of those movies you have to experience. You know?
Yeah, this is definitely probably going to be a drink and watch for me. I'm probably
Yeah,
going to sit down and have a few and laugh the whole time.
yeah. That's definitely what it sounds like.
Oh man, but yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I wish I had something cool like the Friday the 13th box set, but man, that's really fucking cool. I need to get that.
Oh man, it's so cool. It comes with like a couple posters and like, oh man, it really. I mean, and the way they and I know I've been checking out a lot of videos, and I think there's a couple of problems with the disc, which is unfortunate. But
Hmm.
I think Screen Factory is sending out replacement ones, so at least they're going, which they do. Give them their credit, they do that. If they realize that they mess something up, they're going to send out the replacements and make it right with the customer. But as far as presentation goes, man, this box set is absolutely stunning. So I mean, I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. I mean, just seeing it like firsthand, it's just like, wow, man, they put a lot of effort into this. So I just can't wait to watch them, see how they look, see how the prints turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out too. Did did it come with the documentary though? The his name was Jason documentary?
It actually did not. It did not, which is I thought was kind of interesting. Um, it's got a bonus disc on it, which I haven't really checked out too much, but it's got a little booklet and a bonus disc along with so it has the first like it has Friday 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know the Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and then the remake, and then that's where it stops. It doesn't have anything else except for
Yeah.
that bonus and that little booklet. It's like a little tiny little booklet, but I
Mm.
mean it. I'm psyched, dude. I can't wait to start digging into it and watching some of them, just see how the prints look.
Well, the box set for the Halloween movies, that didn't have the 25 years of terror, did it? That
Um,
documentary?
I don't believe so. I don't have my box set with me, but I don't believe it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that though.
I'm pretty sure it didn't actually. It might have had like scenes from it on like special features on some of the discs, but
Which
I
I
don't
was
have the full documentary on it.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping this one would contain the Crystal Lake memories because I actually don't have that documentary, which I wish I did. I was kind of hoping that this one would include that, but unfortunately didn't. But like I said, doesn't deter from the fact that this is a fucking beautiful box set, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Stunning. I have to send you a picture of it, dude, and see the artwork on it. It's incredible. I don't know
I'll
who did
send
the
you
I
I'll
don't know
send you
who
a picture of this ridiculous movie.
yeah. I'm trying to figure out who did the artwork on it. It's nuts though, dude. There's so many different variations of him on there, and it's just so cool. But yeah, man, that's all I picked up. So I mean, I haven't really been too active in picking stuff up.
Yeah. I've been holding out. I've been wanting to go on a hunt here lately.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Have to start going.
Yeah, like I said, anytime you wanna ride out, man, and go do and go on a hunt, man, just let me know. We can
Yeah.
go. Like I said,
No
we're kind of losing out on spots to go hunting, but
problem.
there's always a chance we'll find something.
Oh yeah. All right, man. Well, you ready to dive into this?
I am so ready.
Did you wanna do the synopsis? You want me to?
No, if you want to, man.
Okay. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started on this review. This review will more than likely contain spoilers. So if you have not seen this movie, stop it right here. Highly recommend you either go out and purchase the movie, figure out some way to watch this movie because it is awesome. Um,
It is.
yes. With that, let's dive into it. So the movie basically takes place. There's a pianist by the name of Marcus who witnesses a murder of a psychic woman, or I guess you would say like a medium, and
Mhm.
ultimately ends up teaming up with a reporter to solve the murder and figure out who the murderer is um, in a very giallo like style. And that's basically the storyline. Um, without giving too much away with the storyline though. But that's a small synopsis of it. Um, Tony, what's your thoughts on the storyline?
Oh, I mean, I was gonna make a point of that, Corey. This movie is so engaging. As soon as you start it, you just get sucked right into the story, and you're on the journey with Mark and trying to piece together what's going on, who the killer might be. It's just so engaging, man. It's a longer film, but it doesn't feel like it because you're so engaged in the story. And that's what I love about this movie in particular. Just to just to see him kind of become the detective, which is a giallo trope, and I mean, you know, this movie definitely is on the top tier of giallo films. Um, but it's a trope where a fish out of water, usually a foreign person comes to Italy and they're involved in figuring out who the killer is because they're indirectly involved in the murder. So in this one, it does it. Argento paints it perfectly, and it's so interesting to see him. Because that trope with giallo films is the detectives, the police are really useless. They don't they don't factor in at all. Matter of fact, the detectives and stuff, you see them at the crime scene, with the medium, with her crime scene, and then you don't see them really through the rest of the movie until the
Yeah.
end. So it's like he becomes the detective, he becomes the police officer, and he essentially figures it out himself, and relies on himself to pick up clues, and it's really fascinating, man. It's so interesting watching it. And I think this giallo in particular, Deep Red, does it better than just about any other. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree to that. There's so many things that are Argento, you know, kind of accomplished with this film, and we'll dig into some more of those later on because I do have some key points that I do want to talk about. Um, but ultimately, at the end of the day, this is actually one of my up there top 10 Argento films. I would say, well, at least top five actually.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
just like you said, it is a bit longer than normal, but the storyline is really cool, and I mean, it is kind of cliche. It does definitely play on that clichéness as far as um, trying to almost like murder mystery, trying to figure out who the killer is and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you really have fun with this one. And to your point, it is, yeah, longer,
Mhm.
or but it doesn't feel like it because you are captured in the film, and you're trying to figure out who the killer is throughout the film along with Mark, which I thought's really cool. Well, I mean, I like that about Argento films, but mainly this one. Um, but yeah, what's your thoughts on some of the stuff that he accomplished with this, as far as like, I guess I'll go ahead and get into some of my key points, but like the strong female roles and the even the gay character.
Oh man,
Um, yeah,
there's so
but
much,
well,
there's so much substance in this movie.
there was.
Argento's a little bit ahead of his time in the fact that he has um, a strong female character that really takes charge, and in Gianna, she really takes charge, and she's really basically like basically she can figure out most of the stuff herself. Like she goes on her own little um you know detective stuff. I mean, she starts to become a detective herself, and she doesn't have to rely on anybody else to piece together what's going on too. But she does for a time want to um you know work together with Marcus to kind of figure out what's going on, who's behind the killings. And but she's so independent, and she's so I love the scene where she's talking to him, and I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but bringing it up, I want to mention the arm wrestling scene
Mhm.
where he's like, well, fundamentally women are not as strong as men, and she takes offense to that, and she's like, okay, well, let's arm wrestle, and we'll see. So they engage in an arm wrestling competition, and essentially she beats him but he becomes almost like, you know, demasculine. I can't say, I can never say that word, but he feels like less of a man because he automatically says, "Hey, you're cheating. Your elbows are off the table, and this and that." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're a big, strong man. I'm so sorry. You're right. We are weaker," just to be condescending. And it's so funny. Their banter back and forth, and how she essentially has proven herself to be strong enough to, hey, I can figure this out myself, but I'm going to help you out if you need help or whatever. Like she's an interesting character, man, for
Yeah.
sure. What did you think of her character?
I really liked her character. And again, like you said, the strong woman vibe from her. I really enjoyed that character. And like you said, almost to the point where she picks up things on her own and stuff, and she's doing a lot more things than you know. So basically, if a role was written like that, you would think that it was mainly written for a man, especially in that time period.
Oh,
But
time
he
period,
and yeah, and Argento was almost like pushing the buck on that, and he was really just trying to ultimately get a strong female character there. One of the scenes that since we're bringing up scenes and stuff like that, and you brought up the arm wrestling scene, and I was actually going to bring that one up. There's another scene where, and it's one of my favorite scenes. It's the car scene,
oh,
but in the car scene, you see where like his seat falls, so he's sitting lower than her in the car,
right.
and it's almost given, and there again, it's almost given off like she's obviously the showcase of the scene, and stuff. So I don't know. That's what I like about that whole character, but or about that whole portion of the film, but mainly the character itself, or herself. I ultimately like her character.
I do too. Yeah, she definitely puts Mark in his place quite a few times, and it's pretty engaging, and it's pretty it's pretty cool that she's able to do that. And to your point, that scene, I know me and you have watched this movie many times together, and by no means is Deep Red a comedy, but that scene in the car, every time we watch it, we just end up cracking up laughing. It's so funny how
Yeah.
the visor keeps flipping down and he keeps flipping it back up, and it just constantly keeps flipping down, and the seat falls down, and oh my god, dude, that's just some of the best comedy. I every time we watch it, or every time I watch it, I end up laughing. But I know when we watch it together, we both crack up at that part. It's so
Oh yeah.
funny,
It's got me fucking rolling usually.
so funny.
Yep. That's actually one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Yeah, it's so good.
It
Um,
kind of it kind of gives like, so you have the soul story, right, and then the movie itself is just very serious tone and stuff, and then there's
very
just that
good.
subtle comedy,
Yeah, yeah,
that he threw in there.
he does it so well too. Because I know, going back to our Tenebrae review, where the dog scene. I mean, he just does it so seamlessly, and it fits so well. It kind of like breaks up the structure for a minute, and then it gets right back on track. Like it's refreshing almost, to see
Yeah.
that. And I swear, and I want to talk about the score. The Goblin score is absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. Every time I hear the Goblin score in any scene or any part in this movie, it gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
I
It's absolutely fantastic, man. One of the
like.
best scores, one of the best scores of all time.
Yeah.
Like, no question.
Yeah, the Goblin score definitely. Of course, Goblin is known for a lot of giallos and stuff like that, but I think their most recognition that they get, honestly, is from Suspiria. But in my opinion, this one is right up there with Suspiria in my opinion, as far as the score, the musical score of a film.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's so fucking incredible. I cannot stress enough how good it is. I listen to it, like I listen to it in the car just because I love that score so much. Like I'll pop it in and listen to it in the car, and just oh man, puts me in a mood. It every time it the transitions, like every time they play the music, it fits perfectly. Argento has a way of doing that, adding to the music, affecting the scene, and it oh man, it's so well done. It's so well done. I can't say enough about how he's able to do that and how he's able to do it effectively. Um, So I mean, and I know you wanted to talk about Carlo, which Carlo to me is one of the most fascinating characters as well in the movie. Um, when you first meet him, I guess he would be kind of like a colleague of Mark because um, they both play the piano. So
Mhm.
when you first meet him, you can tell they have you can tell they're good friends, and um, you know, going into spoilers and stuff like that, we find out what Carlo's orientation and the fact that he's a heavy drinker. He's a full blown alcoholic,
Mhm.
and it almost seems like he's masking the fact that he is what he is by drinking as much as he does, and that he's trying to bury his, what he is deep down by drinking and just being a blackout drunk all the time, which is it's really sad. His character is really it's really like almost heartbreaking what he goes through in this movie. Because you can tell there's scenes where, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but there's scenes where he tries to tell his friend like, "Hey, you need to just just give up on this, man. Just go off, go do something else, and give up." And like, because he really truly cares about Mark, and he really cares about their friendship. You can tell they have a close friendship. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just a tragic character, it really is. When we learn about him in the beginning of the movie and then toward the end, it's so sad what he goes through. But I just think it's interesting how that's what I perceived from watching his character and how he's always, there's even a scene where where Mark's trying to find him to get information or to give him some information, and he can't find him, and he's at an apartment with somebody, and he's just completely just blasted out of his mind, and it's really really sad, man. But what do you think about his character, Corey?
Yeah. Ultimately, like you said, a very sad character. Um, just what he went through as a through a young age, like you said, and just
Yeah,
overall just the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like the destruction of his character really is just kind of a sad sight to see, honestly.
because there's even a little scene where they're playing piano together, and it looks
Mhm.
like that's the one scene in the whole movie where he actually looks like he's happy, like he's actually enjoying what he's doing. He's enjoying the camaraderie. He's enjoying being with his buddy and
Yeah.
enjoying doing what he loves doing, which is playing the piano and being a musician. And that's the one scene where you see him happy. And other than that, he's just completely like he's almost drinking to mask his misery and his
Mhm.
depression. He's almost a depressive person. Like he's
Alcoholic. Yeah.
full blown depression. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel
It
for
was
his every
definitely a
time I
sad
watch
character.
it, I feel for his character more and more and more. You know.
Hmm. So so what are your thoughts on some of Argento's camera work on this film?
Mm. He's the master, man. Like
Hmm.
his framing of shots. I mean, every time I watch the movie again, I pick up on more and more and more with his camera work, and uh, even more so the scene where the author gets killed in her house, and she gets killed by getting basically Halloween 2'd, where she gets her head, you know, submerged in scalding hot water, and she just has boils and just burns on her face, and it's a miserable way to go. But I always think of Halloween 2 when I see that. But yeah, the camera work and everything in that scene in particular is just it's masterful,
Hmm.
and throughout the whole movie, even and I think about when Mark is looking through the later on in the movie, he's looking for clues and stuff in the house, and he's scaling the house trying to get around it, and there's just so many scenes that are just so well. I mean, they're perfectly shot. And Argento's always had a way with the camera work and framing, and in this movie in particular, some of his best. I mean, which is saying a lot for the man's career. He's always been a master, even with his first, you know, his directorial debut. I mean, he's just always had a knack for it. So, um, That's why I enjoy watching his movies so much, because a lot of people say, Argento is more style, more style over substance and this and that. But I really think Deep Red has the best of both. It's got an engaging story, it's got gorgeous style. I mean, it's got it all. So that's why I always say Deep Red's, one of Argento's masterpieces, in my opinion. It's one of his greatest films, because it really has the best of both worlds. I mean, people discredit Suspiria for not having a deep story and a deep narrative or anything, in that, but they say the style is what makes the movie. Well, Deep Red has it both. It has an engaging story and great style, so that's why it's one of his best films. Tenebrae
Yeah,
has that too. So
yeah, definitely. And actually, funny thing that you bring that up. So we're talking about camera angles and stuff right now. That's what I was. That's kind of where I was going.
yeah,
There's one scene.
camera and shot, shot composition, and that's what, yeah, that's what we're getting to.
Yeah. Well, there's one scene that actually kind of reminds me almost of Tenebrae in a sense. Um, the scene where basically the camera's rolling through and there's like marbles and crayons and toys and shit, and then there's like a knife or whatever. You
That's
know,
another that I love so much, man. It's so perfectly shot.
that scene, that scene really reminds me of the scene in Tenebrae when he's scaling the apartment,
Mm.
or that what is it, the villa or whatever where the lesbians live.
Yeah, the villa.
hmm But that whole shot sequence really reminds me of that scene in Tenebrae.
Yeah.
As I was watching it, I was like, oh man, that makes me feel like I'm watching Tenebrae all over again. You know. But and then there's another camera trick that I really liked by him was the scene where what was her name, Helga, um the
This,
uh the psychic,
yeah.
the scene where she starts basically calling out the killer in the crowd or in her audience.
Mhm. Which
And
which essentially sets up the whole movie. Like when this
yeah,
happened.
well, there's a camera angle that he does where he pulls it off so fucking well, but he literally launches the camera over the top of her at one point, and I picked up on that immediately, and I was like, "That's a really cool shot." Like that, the only Dario Argento could pull that off. It was just a
Absolutely
really cool way that he handled the camera on that one.
masterful, man. Like I said, he's the master.
Oh yeah,
Um, and it's just proven more and more when you look at his filmography and you watch, especially his earlier work. It's man, he's got it. He's got it, man. He's learned from the best, and he's uh he's honed his craft well, and it just goes to show in every frame, pretty much.
so what was one of your favorite scenes in this film?
Well, it wasn't one of my favorite scenes, but I got on my notes. I wanted to mention the blue bar reference. The bar that Carlo kind of hangs around where he meets Mark and stuff like that. Um, the way it's framed and the camera work around that to show the bar is a reference to the painting Nighthawks, which is really cool. If you look, and I paid attention to it this time, if you look in the bar when they're having their back and forth, their banter, and they're talking to each other, all the bar patrons are completely still, like they're framing it as they're in the painting, which is really cool. I love the way Argento did that,
Hmm,
because it's exactly like the painting, even to the extras not moving. Like they're sitting there, and you're expecting them to move, but they're not. They're standing completely still, which is so odd in the context of the movie. But if you know what he's going for and what he's doing, it's genius. It makes sense. So
hmm.
I found that pretty fascinating.
I'll have to go back and look at that now.
You see it, man. Like when they're talking, you look in the background at the extras, they're not moving at all. Like they're completely still. It's so unnatural, yet it makes sense to what he's doing.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, I thought that was
Just
pretty
goes
cool.
back to all the little subtle things that he puts in his films.
He does. He does a lot of subtle things in his movies, and that's one I picked up on for the first time. I've never noticed that before until this watch, and I've watched this movie many, many times. See, that's why I love rewatching movies, because there's you always pick up on something different. You always
Hmm.
notice, but you never noticed before. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was pretty neat.
I know that is really cool.
What was did you say what was one of my favorite scenes?
Yeah, what's your favorite scene?
Oh God, if I had to narrow it down to one scene that was my favorite, that's so tough. Um, because there's so many fucking phenomenal scenes in this movie. Um, man, I think one of my favorite scenes is when I can't remember his name. Uh, Jordani, yeah, Jordani. The professor that's kind of helping Mark along the way. That was with Helga when she was doing her her reading. Um, when his death was, I love that scene because Argento, like I said, when we go back to framing work and camera angles, um, he misdirects you with that puppet that comes out.
Yeah.
Like it does not set up for that puppet to come out because Argento is misdirecting the camera. So you don't expect it to happen, but it happens anyway, and it scares the shit out. I remember seeing that when I was a little younger, and it scared the shit out of me. Absolutely terrified me. That little puppet. I'll never fucking forget him popping out. That little ginger puppet, like scared the shit out of me. But
Well,
his
that whole. Oh, go ahead.
his I'm just saying, like that scene in particular, that whole sequence was fucking great. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, you're kind of you have an expectation like something's going to happen there, you know,
Right.
and it almost seems like okay, well, it's been too long. There's nothing going to pop out, and then all of a sudden that fucking puppet comes out of nowhere.
It's that misdirection, man. You don't expect it because
Yeah.
I mean, the weight was there, the camera was off, like you don't see it coming. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you finally get a chance to go, okay, nothing's happened, and then boom, as soon as you think that, boom, he pops out. It's like fuck, like it just gets you every time. It's
It
incredible.
does.
It's incredible. And then what happens to him, like his death scene, is just oh, it's so it's vicious, man. Like when he gets his teeth hit against the I guess that's the fireplace or whatever. Like every time, and then
Mangle.
it hit the desk. Oh my god, dude,
Oh,
it makes me cringe every
yeah.
time because you see his teeth break, and it's just oh man, it's just brutal.
I mean, it kind of gives off a sense of like something like that could actually happen. Like I could fall right now and chip a tooth, you know. So
Right. And
yeah,
I think when Argento was writing the screenplay, him and his partner that were writing the screenplay came up with a list of death deaths that the audience could relate to, like they could relate to getting burned by scalding hot water, or they could relate to this, like something like that. And I noticed that when I was looking at the trivia that they both wanted to kind of make the audience relate to the death that was happening, or the pain of the deaths that were happening in the film. So that was another pretty cool, interesting little thing.
that's cool. Yeah,
Because I mean, it's just funny that you picked up on that. Did you read about that in the trivia? Because I don't think you did, man. So that's cool that you picked up on it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's like so that's
because that's definitely
I noticed that with that kill scene like ultimately like I could legitimately see myself like falling and chipping a tooth or something or busting my mouth. You know, there's so many like sharp edges even in my house. Like got that weird ass counter. If I fall on it or something, bang my face, you know, something. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
but yeah, that's kind of going back to like almost like what was that, the Texas remake where he's dragging the girl or whatever, and she's trying to claw to get away, and like her
Oh,
nails are just popping
yeah,
off.
hmm yeah,
Fuck that.
dude.
Like
Um,
ultimately, you feel the pain off that.
I know one thing that always gets me when in any horror film I ever watch is the one thing that gets me is when somebody like cuts the Achilles tendon. Like, oh, every time that happens, dude, it makes me cringe. Every
Oh
time that
yeah.
happens, it makes me cringe. I've seen that
Uh,
in so many horror movies, and oh, it gets me every time.
One of the worst ones that I can think of is Frontiers.
Oh,
There's
friend.
Yeah, there's an Achilles tendon cut in that movie, and that
Yeah,
one gets to me every time.
yeah. I think of Hostel. Hostel did a
Oh,
gnarly one, and then the House of Wax remake. Well, kind of like a it's not really a remake, but the newer House of Wax, the one that came out in '05, that one did a gnarly one too. With oh god, it's just that always gets me, man. That's one of those things that gets me, and I see it in a lot of horror films. I guess at this point it'd be like a trope, but it happens a lot, and it just oh man, it makes me cringe every time I see it. It's rough, dude. But I mean, going back to what you were talking about, what's one of your favorite scenes in the movie?
My favorite scene actually. I'm narrowing it down to two of them, and it's really hard for me to ultimately decide. But the scene where the killer goes into Marcus's apartment.
Oh, that's another
Um,
good one too.
yeah, just even and it goes back to Argento capturing the, I guess you would say, the beauty behind the camera, but um everything. I mean, so it's really cool that he doesn't want the killer to know that he knows that the killer's there, so he's still playing the piano while searching for a weapon to arm himself with. I thought that was just really cool how he
So
thought,
cool.
in an instinct that fast. Um, and then ultimately, one of the things that makes that scene really good for me is Argento captures a bead of sweat running down Mark's face, and it's
Yeah,
like,
great
and we
shot.
it goes back to us having that conversation in the last episode about how Argento is essentially, in my opinion, an artist, and we're seeing his vision on film, you know.
Yep.
And who else cares about detail like that? Hollywood doesn't really care about that detail, you
Oh,
know.
it's so subtle yet so perfect. It paints the picture so well of what he's trying to purvey and what he's trying to get out there. He does it better than just about anybody, man.
Hmm.
There's a reason they call him the Italian Hitchcock. I mean, he which going back to Hitchcock, I think in that scene, and I think her name is Amanda Rigetti, her apartment when she gets killed and all the birds are in there. I took that as a little nod to Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Every time I watch that scene, I'm like, man, that kind of. I don't know if that's his subtle way of giving credit to Hitchcock, but I think so every time I see that scene.
Hmm.
Yeah.
One of the other scenes that I ultimately really love about this film is the scene where he figures out what's written on the wall.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The scene you talking about this when
A mirror.
when he gets the water going
Yeah.
bathroom to see what she was writing before she died, or is that I'm thinking about a different one?
Yeah, where she's writing on the wall and it's like a mirror wall.
Yeah, the steam. Yeah, the steam scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I guess like he goes and he figures out what she did,
Yeah.
and he realizes it, and he that whole scene right there is just really cool how he figured that out. He as a character, Marcus was actually pretty damn smart.
He
Um,
was because he did mention because Giordani he went back after Mark kind of went there and realized that she was dead, and he kind of took off. He didn't want to get caught there because I guess he didn't want to
mhm.
be, he didn't want to become a suspect. But he left and then was talking to Giordani's character, and then Giordani he mentioned something about her finger was pointing to something, and it seemed unnatural. So and that kind of stuck in his head, and then he was analyzing the scene and trying to figure it out. So he saw the silhouette of her body laid out with the tape and then noticed that it was pointing to a certain spot. I guess it was along the bathtub. So that one spot he realized that, hey, when the water's running, the steam's coming up. So he had like the water running from the faucet and the water running from the tub, and it filled the whole bathroom with steam, so he could picture out what she was trying to write. And I love that too, man. Another little subtle thing that he did that was just the perfect for the narrative, you know,
Yeah.
just to kind of figure out, to kind of give them a little bit of a heads up on the killer, because it always seemed like they had the killer well, on their toes. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too. I love that scene as well. I always go back to the murder of Helga. That scene is just masterful when when the killer comes down with the hatchet and it stabs into her like her shoulder, and you can just see the stab, and it just looks so gnarly. And
Yeah.
then her, I love the scene where her head goes through the glass, and
Mm.
oh man, it's just so well shot, man. I can't say enough about how well
Glass,
he executed it.
the glass like goes through her chin or whatever, her neck.
Goes through her neck, yeah, which is another Argento thing, broken glass. That's kind of a running theme in his films. He has a lot of that going on. So um, I always go back to Helga's death as somewhat one of my favorite scenes, and then I also go back to Giordani's death, and that whole sequence is one of my favorite scenes. So
Yeah.
those are probably my two. It's hard to pick between the two. I love them both so much, but there's so many fantastic scenes in this movie.
Well,
It's just it's
as
hard to
far as
pick.
my favorite kill scene, I would say that's Helga.
Oh yeah, I mean I would lean more to her than Giordani's, but still, like they're both fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that whole. I mean, it catches you off guard. The whole meat cleaver scene. That when the killer comes in and just right down onto her shoulder, it's like holy
Oh
shit.
yeah.
And then like you said, it's like all of a sudden it looks exactly like just an open wound in her shoulder.
Right. And
Yeah.
even then, the lead up to that scene where she goes to the door and then she can sense the evil on the other side of the door, so she kind of backs away, and then the
Hmm.
door just plows open, and then she hits her with the hatchet. It's so well done, man. So well done.
Yeah.
The subtlety is just so perfect.
Definitely. Surprisingly, this being a Dario Argento film, and I might be overthinking this, but I only counted five as far as body count.
As far as the body count,
Mm. That's it's pretty small. But Dario Argento doesn't really focus so much on body count as he does the storyline.
yeah. I mean, he definitely does, man. There's a lot. There's a lot going on with the story. There's a lot to kind of process and kind of take in and figure out. It's pretty cool, man. Like you just get like I said, that you get so sucked into the story that you don't even realize that it's a lower body count. You just don't
Hmm.
even pay attention. And the kills are so grand, and you know they're so out there that you just don't even realize that there's only a few. It's it's mesmerizing. It's a movie that mesmerizes you. You pop it in, and you're just like you're on a journey. And like a lot of his films take you on that journey. Like Suspiria is a great example. You pop it in, it's just like it's on a you're on like almost a roller coaster ride.
Hmm.
What's going to happen? So it's funny you mentioned that there's only a few, like a handful of kills in the movie. And you don't realize it, especially with a longer running time.
Hmm.
It's so involved in the story that you don't even realize it until you
Yeah.
think like, wow, there's only a couple of kills in the movie, but they're so gnarly,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. But yeah, they are definitely brutal. Another one of my favorites, but honestly it was a toss up between um ultimately the 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 face that gets ran over
Yeah.
um or
Oh yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
But ultimately Helga takes the cake just because of how brutal that one was.
Right.
So, but yeah, it actually surprised me that there was only five in that one. Kind of makes me. I want to go back and look at some of the other films that he did and just count and go from there.
Yeah. Well, I know Tenebrae had quite a few. Definitely
Yeah,
not five. Definitely more than that. Um.
yeah.
Yeah. And you know what was interesting too? I noticed when Mark is going to the house, which I want to go back to that, him scaling the house and trying to get through and trying to figure stuff out because he realizes through a photograph that there's a wall, like there's almost a walled up area that's not supposed to be there. So he's like,
Mm.
that's interesting. And then he goes back and finds out that there's, you know, going through and cutting through the wall and seeing what is hidden back there, which is really a terrifying scene. I know if I saw that if I was younger and I saw that scene, that would mortify me. That corpse, like just sitting in the chair, and the way he zooms in on it after he plows through the wall is really fascinating. Um,
Yeah.
but to that point, the landlord, I think it's the landlord, the older guy that lets him on the property.
Hmm.
Um, there's a little bit of like a little scene where his daughter is kind of like it's like she's like a psychopath, like a sociopath, and could be a serial killer. Like
Yeah.
she kind of, yeah, the little redheaded girl,
Hmm.
yeah, because she what she does to the lizard, and then
Yeah.
he makes a comment that, oh, she does stuff like that a lot or something like that, and I'm like, this girl could be a serial killer, man. Like she's a little off.
Yeah.
But if you notice, that girl, that redheaded girl, is the same redheaded usher from the movie Demons. It's the same actress.
Really.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
thought that.
didn't pick up.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, man. I noticed
Hmm.
that. Noticed that. Yeah, but yeah, I just thought that was an interesting little added piece that Argento put in there. Her character in particular, and how kind of off she was, and how she was, you know, essentially like possibly showing signs of being a serial killer. It just was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, what is it? They show no emotion, right? And then the
Right.
first sign of a serial killer is animal torture.
Animal torture, like, and then her dad smacked her, and she smiled, and she was a little off, dude.
Hmm.
Like, I just thought that was interesting. It's such a small little scene, yet it's like it makes you think, like, what the hell was like, what is this all about? I
What'd you
just thought,
think of what'd you think of the use of childlike music
oh man,
whenever the killer was
every,
around?
every piece of music in this movie is brilliant. Every
Yeah.
piece of music. I there's nothing as far as like the score is concerned that is bad. There's no it's all fantastic.
Well,
Every,
you know what? And almost the score and atmosphere kind of go hand in hand, especially with Argento films and the use of Goblin.
right.
I
Well,
mean,
they build on that atmosphere. I mean, they really do with their score.
yeah. 'Cause I mean, you can you definitively say that this is an atmospheric movie if Goblin didn't do the score?
Now, I can't imagine this movie with a different score. Like it's so hard to picture
Exactly.
it. But I think it would take away from it. It would definitely take away from it.
Oh yeah, hands down,
Yeah.
hands down.
Just like I believe the score, if they didn't do the score for Suspiria, it would definitely take a lot away from that movie.
Yeah, yeah, because ultimately, I mean, and there again, like I said, Goblin. It almost I could honestly sit down and listen to a track from Goblin and feel like I'm dealing with something very atmospheric.
Man, I do it all the time. I play it in the car, like all the time.
Yeah.
Like I love their soundtracks and their music. It's so good, man.
Oh yeah,
It's
definitely.
amazing.
Um, what do you think about the special effects?
Oh, for the time, they're really they're really good, man. For the time of the
Hmm.
early '70s, I mean, really not bad at all.
I mean,
Or
quite
just
frankly, I'm impressed that they were allowed to do the where the car ran over the where the car ran over the head and everything. I'm really actually surprised they were allowed to put that on film.
yeah, they didn't cut away from it too quick. It didn't leave a lot to be desired. You saw a good bit of it,
Mhm.
you know. Yeah, I love the effects. I mean, the effects are great, man. I'm not sure who did the effects for the movie, but I know I was impressed, especially with Olga's, or not Olga, Helga's kill in particular. Really well done.
Yeah,
The practicals in that, yeah. The cuts with the hatchet, and yeah. I'm I can't say anything bad, man. This movie is one of my favorites. I love it. I can watch it just about any time. Just get sucked into the atmosphere with the score and the narrative, and it's just a fun movie, man. It's a fun watch. It's one of the best Giallos ever made, like no doubt.
I can agree to that statement.
I mean, it
Yeah,
really.
like I said, just ultimately between this one and pretty much Suspiria and Inferno and Opera. Those are like my tops right there.
Yeah, I'm a
Hands down.
I'm a big fan of course, Asperia. This one, Tenebrae.
It's
Even
original.
yeah, even Crystal Plumage, and um, if I was throwing another one in there, man, it's so tough because I would love to throw Phenomena in there too.
Oh yeah, Phenomenal. Well, and you know me again, atmosphere, and that movie is big on atmosphere.
Oh, especially from the opening scene alone, like the opening.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, but I want to throw Inferno in there, dude, because Inferno is a movie I feel is highly underrated, and not enough people talk about that movie. I think it's brilliant too. I love that one. I always champion that movie and say, hey, it deserves more credit than it gets.
mhm.
Shame that it doesn't, you know, because I mean, you come off of Suspiria and then follow that up. It's going to be tough to follow that movie up. Even I mean, I don't know how he did it following up Deep Red with Suspiria. It's fantastic. He was able to do that. So, um, yeah, I would throw Inferno in there too. Inferno is brilliant. I love that movie as well. But I love. Oh, dude, I wanted to get into this too. You know when Olga's, or I keep saying Olga. I'm sorry. When Helga's being killed by the killer, and Mark runs up to the apartment to help her out, and he doesn't notice it at the time, but he sees the killer's face.
Yes.
Did you notice it when he went the first time? Did you notice it? Did you see it?
No, honestly, and and I'll tell you why. Okay, so this is a movie that I have watched several times, and I will say it just for some reason, like you can sit down and you can watch Friday the 13th over and over again, right? And know exactly what happens shot for shot almost.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Argento films, for just some damn reason, it's like it's a new experience every single time. You know, so no, and it's crummy because I do know about it. Once the climax of the film happens or close to the climax of the film,
You see it, yeah.
yeah, you see it, and it's like, oh yeah, you know,
But he knows the whole time that something's off, like he's missing something. Because he tells the detectives, "Did you guys move something from the scene? There seems to be something missing that I can't quite figure out." Like
yeah,
even then, even while he's at the scene of the crime, he knows that something's off, that he missed something. And it goes to Argento where the character remembers something or recalls something from their memory. Like that's another trope that Argento will use in his films. And at the end of the movie, he's like, "It wasn't a painting; it was a reflection in a mirror. It wasn't part of a painting; it was the reflection of the killer." And that's how the killer is revealed at the end, which I thought is so brilliant, man. It's
mhm,
so brilliant because as many times as I've seen the movie, you don't pay attention to it at the beginning when he's going to help her out or try to help her out because you're intrigued with him and getting to the body and you don't even realize it. But this time, as much as I've seen it, I'm like, oh, well, I'm watching it with more of a critical eye this time. I want to pay attention. And I do spot it this time because I was paying attention. So I don't know, man. I just love how he does that, how he's able to fit that in, and that I was able to catch that from the beginning. Um, because it's like that's just so cool how he's able to do that. It really is. But it goes to show like that's Argento's thing is the character they remember something and then it's like boom, then the movie like ends.
Hmm.
Which the way the killer dies at the end is really a pretty cool special effect as well. That's got to be the strongest like necklace in the history of like. I mean, that thing's got to be made of like some sort of like metal we've never even heard of before. That it's able to withstand the force of an elevator and not snap and break. It's fantastic, but the fact that it goes through the neck is just so brutal, dude.
Yeah. It comes down to one of those brutal kills of the film.
It's gnarly, man.
Hmm.
It's gnarly without really being shown. Like you don't see the decapitation. You just see
Yeah.
kind of like it go through the neck, and that's it. That's all they show.
Hmm.
It's so subtle, man. Like I said, he's the master of like subtle too. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Argento's really out there with his gore," and is this? He can be subtle as well. You know, he can give you enough, but not give you more. Enough to where it says like, well, that's too much. No, he gives you the right amount.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I wanted to bring that up too. That whole sequence with him going through the apartment and then the reflection of the killer. Wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I got through that too.
Yeah. And that's where I was going earlier when I said that Mark was a really kind of a fascinating character as far as like him being able to essentially become a detective himself. You know.
Yeah, which he does. He does well. He does it better than the police.
Yeah.
Essentially, he can, he does detecting well better than the detectives.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed, dude, and I thought about it when we were talking about the movie. There's a lot more subtle comedy in the movie than I thought. There's a lot of funny stuff going on that you don't even really think of. When he's in the, I think of like when he was in that coffee shop and he's talking to her on the phone, and the dude's like doing the coffee, and he's like the steam's getting all over him. He's getting pissed off. That shit's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "What do you got to be doing that now for?" Like he's on the phone, and the phone is right next to the steam, or where the I don't know what he's making, but he's making something, and it's like the steam of it's just like pouring onto him, and he can't hear shit. I don't know, dude. I crack up when I see that shit too. But yeah, there's a little bit more of that than I originally thought. And he's got a little bit more going on as far as like little hints of comedy.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love about Argento because you did bring it up about Tenebrae and stuff, but there is like you almost need a somewhat of a comical tone, not so much like the whole film, but just a little bit,
No, it's just so tough.
to kind of help the storyboard along or the story of the film along.
Right. It kind of keeps you even more engaged too. Like it kind of takes you out for, but not takes you out like as far as like you check out, but it takes you out of like the seriousness, and then it's like, oh, something a little bit more comical, and then you're just like, oh, well, that's a nice little change of pace. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
back, and then you're back into the seriousness of it. It kind of, like I said, it's like a roller coaster kind of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, and another thing on my notes that I see, spoiler alert, Carlo is related to the killer. Um, he's actually the killer's son. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, he's also a gay man. And when Mark tries to find him and goes to the apartment, um, Carlo's like in there with a man, but Carlo's lover is actually ironically played by a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty funny. And then I wrote that her mustache in this movie is way more believable than the sleepaway camp mustache. Because like that is like the worst movie mustache of all time. It's so bad.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah,
Oh shit.
it's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
actually, and that's the funny thing. Going back, I didn't know that that character was actually portrayed by a woman. I thought that was legitimately a gay man.
I don't know. I looked at it, it's like that is a very feminine looking dude. I was like something's up with that. And I look in, I was like, oh no, it's played by a woman. Okay, well that kind of makes sense then,
Hmm.
you know, because she had very feminine features on her face. I'm like, that can't be a guy, you know, but he had a mustache. So I'm like, well, I don't know. I had to look that up. I was like, wow, it's played by okay, it is played by a woman. Okay,
Yeah.
well that makes sense. But yeah, man. All in all, this movie is fucking brilliant. It's fantastic. It's like I said, one of the best Argento movies out there. It's a bona fide classic. I watch it all the time. I highly
Yeah.
recommend anyone who hasn't seen it. Well, I hate that, well, we did say we were going to spoil it, but um, if you haven't seen it before, um, definitely watch it, even though you know what's going on. And it's still just a absolutely engaging film, and it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree to that. It just honestly keeps you on the edge of your seat and ultimately trying to figure out who the killer is. That's what I love about giallos. I've said it time and time again. Essentially, it's just strictly a murder mystery, and
Yeah.
you're just trying to do the detective work yourself.
Mhm. It's what makes the stories engaging. Mostly every giallo film I've ever seen, the story is always engaging because you're always trying to figure out who the killer is and who, you're doing the detective work as well. So it's really engaging, and that's what makes the movie so good. And that's why they're some of my favorite movies. I absolutely love gialli, and I
Yes.
try to get as many of them as I can because I just love the structure of them, and I love how they play out. So love trying to figure it out myself. Like I go into a new gialli I've never seen before, and I try to figure out who the killer is
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Like I try to figure out. That's what keeps you engaged, man.
Yep.
It's just such a fun movie, man. I don't want to,
It
you know,
really is.
I don't want to deter anything from it. It's one of my favorites. I mean, I can't say that enough. Watch it. I could pop
All
it
the
in
way,
anytime.
like you said, yeah, all the way down to the rewatchability is just cool.
Yeah, you pick up on stuff you never noticed before, and it makes rewatchability that much more important. It's
Yeah.
like fuck, man, I never noticed that before, and then I see it. Oh my, I've seen the movie well over probably 35, 40 times. So when you
Wow.
when you watch it, yeah, I mean, I watched it quite a few. Well, no, I probably around 30. I'd say 30. I've seen it about 30 times or a little bit more, but like I said, even then, I've watched it that much and then still pick up on stuff.
Mhm.
Really, really cool.
Well, you ready to land this one?
I'm ready when you are.
All right, folks. Well, that concludes the episode on Deep Red. Like I said, or like Tony said, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out because it's a masterpiece from the master of Giallo. Well, one of the masters of Giallo, shall I say. Um, but as always, you can check us out on Facebook. Um, just go to the search engine on Facebook and type in Midnight Monster Corner podcast and ask to join the discussion. We'd love to have you. Also, like always, this will be on YouTube. So like, share, subscribe on YouTube. And if you're wanting to check out the podcast on TikTok, I'm starting to put things on TikTok, and that'll be uh, you can check out Midnight Monster 20 and go there, follow it, and join the fun there as well. Tony, you got anything you want to add to it?
Oh no, man, I'm loving how you're kind of getting the podcast branched out a little bit by, using these different forums and stuff like that. It's really awesome. So,
Yeah, I'm really,
like,
really
man,
trying to get some stuff out. I'm gonna start putting more stuff out on TikTok as well, kind of like this is what's coming up type deal and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's good stuff.
absolutely, dude. I appreciate that, man. And like I said, I'm just having fun doing the podcast, having fun going into these in-depth reviews and really like dissecting the films and really getting a lot more out of them than watching them with a more critical eye than ever before. So it's really fun, dude. Especially this one. This one was really fun because we got to dissect it and really get to the heart and soul of this particular film, and it was a blast, dude. Had a fun time with this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, later, guys.
Later.